It's Monday, November 27th, 2023, and this is episode 296 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. I'm Mark Duvall.
And I'm Dr. Mike.
Dr. Mike, you staying warm?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Nice and toasty here in the house at 75 degrees.
Oh, nice. Well, I was telling you yesterday, I needed to go out to my car. I thought, I've got on shorts and a t-shirt. That'll be fine. I went out to my car. Oh, my gosh. It was like 65 degrees. I was freezing.
It's terrible, Mark.
Yeah.
Terrible. I was warm all day inside this comfy house.
Good. I got to think about moving to Minnesota.
Yeah, really. Yeah. It's nice. You get change of weather.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a ton of leaves to pick up. I do not like picking up leaves.
Oh, really?
Seems like a little bit of a chore.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, did you watch the F1 in Las Vegas?
Yes, I did. I set my alarm and I woke up and watched it.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I watched the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay. I'm not a big fan of Formula One. I just find it kind of boring.
Well, how do you think it... Now, neither one of us is really a race fan, but how do you think it compares to NASCAR or IndyCar, that kind of thing?
I like NASCAR a lot better.
Really?
Yes.
Now, I was going to say F1 I find more interesting. Well, just because, of the turns. I mean, that's a lot of it.
Right. But, there is more passing in NASCAR.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just harder to pass in Formula One because of those turns, right?
Right. Because of the turns and the track. Yeah.
You've got to slow your speed down.
Okay.
So it seems like when a guy gets a lead in Formula One, he can keep it unless something really goes wrong with his car or something.
Well, there were some moves towards the end of the race.
Yeah. I mean, there is some, but in NASCAR, it's more like, and especially when there's a caution, then they all line up again, and that's your chance to really pass people. And I don't know. I mean, they're both okay.
Yeah. I found it very entertaining because they were in Vegas, going past all the things on the strip. And it was great to have the sphere there, in the background.
That looks really good.
Yeah. So from a fan standpoint, and maybe I should rephrase that because I'm not really a Formula One fan, but I found it very entertaining. Now, was it worth it? It's going to depend on who you ask. Was it worth it for the employees that, it took them 3 hours to get to work? Maybe they would say no. Was it worth it to the casinos? We'll see, when they release some of their financials. But I think the way that things turned out maybe wasn't the way that a lot of people thought it would. Some thought that it would be an insane weekend and you wouldn't be able to get around or anything. And as it turned out, they did not see the influx of people that they anticipated. In fact, a lot of people said the strip was dead other than, the stands and watching the race, that kind of thing. Restaurants were empty. Anyway, just from my standpoint, I thought it was great. I loved watching them race in front of the strip and going by all the landmarks and everything. But
do you think it'll be back?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
I think it'll be back at least next year.
And they probably won't charge as much. They'll probably know ahead of time.
They'll better anticipate what it's going to be like. Now, people who are against it seem to be very much against it. And kind of only highlight the negatives. And there were plenty of negatives. I'm not saying there weren't any. But again, from just a guy sitting at home, and I don't think I'd ever want to see the race. That's another thing about racing, too. It's not like you see the whole track from where you're sitting.
Right.
And
especially in Formula One.
Especially in Formula One. So I'd rather sit at home and watch anyway. I'm kind of the same way with football.
Right.
I'd rather sit at home and watch it anyway. So from my standpoint, it's great. Does it make sense for Vegas? We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. Only time will tell on those things, whether it's going to be something that has great success and gets repeated a lot, or if it's a 1 or 2 time thing and then they're done.
Yeah.
So
it certainly was a spectacle. And if Las Vegas is known for anything, it's spectacle.
Well, the Long Beach Grand Prix in Long Beach, California has been there for years. Mm-hmm. And it seems to do very, very well. Long Beach and Vegas are not really comparable, but it does get a lot of fans, Southern
Yeah.
California
It's
people.
just that it disrupted Las Vegas so much,
Right,
for
right,
months.
right,
And I
right.
think some of the detractors are saying, look at how much went into this and how much the strip was disrupted for a race that's only a couple hours long. I understand
Yeah.
that, but I enjoyed it. All right. Well, we got an email from listener Ryan, our friend from the Great White North. He was talking about the Martingale. Now, we've mentioned the Martingale before. In fact, one of our very first episodes, we talked about how the Martingale system, sounds great. And it's kind of a system that budding gamblers come up with on their own. Oh,
Right.
if I lose a bet, I'll just double the next one. And if I lose that, I'll just double. I'll keep doubling and doubling until I win. And then I'll go back to my base bet. So it's a system that, all right, on the surface doesn't sound too bad. And the system usually works. It's just that when it doesn't, and eventually it won't,
Right.
it can be devastating. But let's hear what Ryan has to say here. The online casino I use, Caesars Sportsbook in Ontario, Canada, offers a minimum $1, maximum $10,000 bet for its online blackjack game. That range is far larger than anything you would ever see in a casino. Assuming you can afford it, and no doubles or splits, and those are two huge assumptions, right?
Right,
Assuming you can
right.
afford it, and no doubles and splits. Here are the amount of times and dollar figures you'd need to wager to win $1. And then he, just kind of sent us a list here of bets that you would have to make to win $1 if you continue to lose. Your first bet would be $1. Your second bet would be $2. Again, if you lost. If you lost again, the third bet would be $4. All the way up to your 14th bet would be $8,192.
Now you realize that after you lose the 13th bet in a row, you've lost $8,191.
Correct.
And then you put out 8,192 on one hand.
Yeah.
So if you lose that, you're over $16,000 in debt.
Yeah, and then your next bet, what do? You can either go back to your dollar, or you can bet 10,000, the most you can bet.
Right.
So you're not going to make your money back. All right, let's go on. Continue with Ryan's email here. I'm glad you're laughing because it is crazy. What do you think of that? If you lost 14 hands in a row, you'd finally be out of luck. The chances of that happening are insanely low, but possible. And let me stop it right there. So the chances of losing those 14 hands in a row are about 1 in 16,384. Now, I came up with that figure basing it on each blackjack hand being a 50-50 wager, which of course it's not. Right? The odds of the system failing are actually lower than that, closer to maybe about 1 in 13,000. But we would argue that is not insanely low.
No.
For example, hitting a royal in Jacks or Better is about 1 in 40,391. Right? So, I mean, we all hit royals. Well, some of us.
Not all of us. But
So it's not that low. Now, let's go back to Ryan's email here. On hand 11, you'd start betting more than $1,000 just to win $1. And that's pretty whack. A blackjack on those would be very lucrative, however. I guess if you lose a double or split, you could skip a level if you wanted. In other words, 4 times the next hand instead of 2 times the next hand. See, that's the other thing too, right? Splitting or doubling. Now, if you did that, what if you have to split twice, right? What if you split and then double? What if and if you just decide, well, I'm just not going to split or double, okay, well, then you're deviating from basic strategy, and your chances of the system failing are even better. Anyway, Martingale, it's always good that we mention it every once in a while to warn people that it sounds like a good idea. It's just that it's devastating and not. Plus, this is an online casino. Now, it's Caesars, which is, got a good reputation, but what if they have things in place that they realize what you're doing here, and then suddenly they change the cap on the bet? Or, they prevent, or, maybe they do something like mess with the cards. Again, I don't think Caesars Sportsbook would do something like that, but that's something you got to be aware of online. I'd be more concerned about, this guy's doing Martingale. And then, you get up to your $1,000 bet and they say, no, you're cut off or whatever. So, yeah, Stay away, folks.
You'd have to have a lot of money.
You'd have to have a lot of money and be willing to lose a lot of money to just try to win that $1. You know, the reason that Ryan sent us the email basically is because the spread is greater than you will see at a brick and mortar casino, usually $1 to $10,000. So,
right.
You know,
because usually you get to that max pretty quick.
Correct. And so this is a case where the Martingale will fail not quite as often because of that big spread, but again, it's still going to fail eventually.
Yeah, it's a very risky way to play. And it's like you said, okay, so hitting a royal in jacks or better at 1 in 40,000. Well, we've never done that, but I bet you if I sat down at a table, a blackjack, I could lose 13 hands in a row.
I bet you could too. All sorts of weird things can happen in gambling. Heck, we hit the fire bet, 6 numbers on the fire bet 2 weeks in a row. Right. You know, for going as many years as we had without ever hitting it. And then within a week, we hit it twice. So,
right.
You know, statistics, odds, they're an interesting but scary thing.
And that's why, like, when I'm teaching somebody for the first time how to play craps, I always say, this is the way I would play. Doesn't mean you're going to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm going to win, just the way I choose. You have to understand that from the get-go.
I always feel bad for our friend Bill. We've brought him up before. Anytime we tried to get him to play some craps with us, the dice were so cold. Okay, Bill, here's how you play, right? Pass line and 2, come bet, 7 out. I'll try it again. Pass line 2, come bet, 7 out.
If it had gone the other way, right?
Yeah.
He'll probably be playing craps all the time. He'd love it.
Numbers. Hey, thanks to everyone who's been clicking through our Amazon link. Remember, whenever you're going to buy something through Amazon, go to our page first. You can bet on that.com and click through our Amazon link towards the top of the page. All right, you know what time it is? It's time for voicemails. Let's start off with Jason.
Hey, gentlemen, it's Jason from Michigan. First and foremost, thanks for your podcast. I drive a ton, and I always look forward to when your pod drops to get me through my day. Just wanted to bring up this year and Super Bowl. We have some rooms kind of booked and reserved through our host. We're from Michigan, kind of pulling for the Lions here to actually make it to the Super Bowl, which would be pretty cool. But with all that aside, we used to go to Vegas years ago, and we quit going on Super Bowl weekend because it was just so crazy. But this year we're debating going back, and didn't know if you guys or any of your listeners have been out there the past few years for Super Bowl. Some of the reasons we quit going was that the table minimums would just get so high and everything would be so cramped, expensive, and just kind of took the enjoyment out of the weekend. But we're debating going back after many years and giving it another shot with the hopes also that our beloved Lions will be there in Vegas where the Super Bowl will be hosted. So we got free rooms. We got part of the trip covered. But other than that, just look for what your guys' thoughts are or some advice on that weekend, whether or not to hit Vegas and or to stay home and watch it on the big screen. You guys have a great week. Thanks for all you do.
So we have never been to Vegas on Super Bowl weekend, and one of the reasons is because we actually like watching the game, and we know ourselves. We know if we were in Vegas that we wouldn't be just sitting in a sports book watching or in our room watching or at some party watching. We'd be playing craps, and we'd be looking at the screen behind the table. And then we wouldn't get that Super Bowl experience. So we'll have to defer to our listeners on suggestions for Super Bowl weekend. But as you mentioned, Jason, the Super Bowl is in Las Vegas this year. So we're thinking it's going to be extra crazy. It's almost more guaranteed than the F1 being crazy, right? Because people are still going to go to Las Vegas for Super Bowl weekend. And, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like.
Yeah, and people can actually attend the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to add another level of craziness.
It depends on what you want out of Super Bowl in Las Vegas. And like we said, we like watching the game, so we don't go. Do you like the party atmosphere? I imagine the table minimums will be high. So, Jason, if you haven't liked it in the past, you may not like it now either.
Yeah. You know what it is, Mark? There is a point where it seems like, I want to be there for the party atmosphere and the excitement of it all. And then after you do that, you start to realize, well, it really wasn't that much fun.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of times where, oh, yeah, okay, I went to that. I'm glad I went to that. I never want to go back to that.
I never need to do that again.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Yeah. It's like you said, it depends on what your motive is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go on New Year's to Vegas anymore.
Yeah.
It is exciting and there's a lot going on, but I'd rather just stay home for New Year's.
Well, all right,
or go to some small casino.
Right. Let's open it up to the listeners.
Whether he should go or not.
Yeah, I mean, or just in general, what do you like about going to Vegas for the Super Bowl? What do you not like about it? What have your experiences been? Yeah, let's open it up because I think we'll have a lot of different opinions, and it'll be fun to hear people's experiences.
And as far as the Detroit Lions go, this might be their best chance.
Yeah, that's another thing, Jason. If the Lions were to go, well, then, yeah, I would say you definitely want to be there. Now, if you could actually get tickets to the game, that'd be something else, too. So,
it's not that easy.
That might be a different answer to your question. All right, next call.
Hi, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Nick in Kalamazoo, a little behind on a trip report, but still wanted to get something in. My wife and I were in Vegas at the end of September, early October. So this would have been just towards the end of the whole cyber attack thing. We were mostly staying at MGM property, so it did affect us some. Our first night or two, we weren't able to charge things to the room. Not everywhere, but in some places. It also affected the app where I can just check in to the room on MGM without having to go to the desk, and it's also the key, so we weren't able to do that our entire trip. However, that was a huge benefit for us our last 2 nights at Delano. We just happened to walk by the VIP desk since my wife is platinum. It was 11 a.m. or so. We didn't expect them to have rooms. We were just going to have them hold our bags. But we asked if there was a room. She was gone for a while. She came back and handed us some keys, and turns out we got a room on the very top floor. It was a very, very nice suite, which was unexpected. We'd never asked and never got an upgrade, so couldn't be happier for ending our trip. As for stories, I just want to reiterate some of the things that other people have said. Ellis Island, great. If you haven't gone there, you like craps, go. Good pizza at Metro Pizza. Their barbecue place is very good. Also, Downtown Grand is probably my favorite place now for craps. I've found a $5 table there almost every time I've gone. They're right across from Pizza Rock, which is a fantastic pizza place. You should go. We did stay a couple nights at Rampart, which I've talked about before. If you haven't gone and you like locals places, you should check it out. The place is beautiful. The rooms are amazing. Everything's $10. They have 3 Pie Gal tables, 2 craps tables. Both craps tables have all tall, small, and fire, so all of the side bets you could ever want. Also, strangely, I was able to find some $10 crap tables in the morning at Luxor and Excalibur, and even in the evening at Planet Hollywood, I was able to find like a $5 Crazy Forest table and a few carnival games, so shocking. They did have one crap story I wanted to tell. We happened to be over at MGM Grand. I had $300, $400, something like that in my pocket. So I decided to walk over to the craps table. It was $15, bought in, and immediately they raised it to $25, but let me stay at $15. So I played my normal 5, 6, 8, put money out there. The first 2 shooters just killed me. So I got the dice, didn't have a whole lot of money left in my pocket. So I think I played pass line, maybe single odd, 6 and 8, and started to go on a bit of a roll. But what I found annoying was that the dealers directly across from me, a little bit older guy from the Boston area, clearly from his accent, seemed unhappy that I was only going up 1 step every time I was pressing, right? So my 6 and 8, 18 to 24, 24 to 36, 36 to 42, and kind of gave me the impression like, sir, this is a $25 craps table. This isn't how it works. I was very happy with after 20 minutes out of my roll that he was gone and on the other side of the table. We were almost towards the end of the roll. I went through an entire dealer rotation, so it was quite a long roll, and was collecting some black chips and was doing pretty well. And some guy walks up to the table over to my left and drops down $200, and they give him 8 green chips. And he's like, this isn't right. You should be giving me 10 green chips. And they were explaining to him, sir, those are $25 chips. They're in stacks of 4 because that's $100. And dude was just like, you're ripping me off. It was a whole thing. It was crazy. It's like 6 o'clock in the evening. So, we shouldn't be seeing this. And the German lady beside me was basically like, shut up and take your chips or go away. We're in the middle of a roll here. Anyway, I ended up finishing my roll, and I made exactly $2,000 when I colored up. And I walked away and realized that because of that, I had to tip the dealers when I cash out. I always tip when I cash out, and I try to tip when I'm playing. ran to the cage, broke 100, came back with a couple 20s and tipped them. But it was a real strange experience. It was a great roll, but kind of some downers there with the arguing. And then the dealer was kind of rude, I thought. Have you ever experienced something like that where a dealer kind of not liking the way you were playing your action? Even though I was prepared every time they came to me, that was pretty off-putting. But anyway, I've rambled long enough. We're headed to Biloxi over Thanksgiving. So I'll talk to you then. Thank you for all the content. Appreciate it.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Yeah. Thanks for the report, Nick.
Yeah, good luck in Biloxi.
Yeah. It's never good when a dealer doesn't like the way you're playing. Now, maybe he was upset that he was having to deal with
$1 or something.
right, to make it a $42 bet or something. But that's very common. It's very common for people to press to 36 or 42, something like that. So that is unfortunate.
Well, Mark, if you had to ask me who the most miserable person in the world is, I would tell you that it's a dealer who wants to play the game his way.
Yeah.
And he has to put up with people not playing the game his way.
Yeah.
You see that a lot.
Yeah. And the most obvious example is don't players. You know, there are some dealers who disdain don't players and aren't afraid to show it.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I really don't.
It's the kind of thing where if I've got a choice, in other words, I'm not stuck at some remote casino where I have no other choice, I'll switch tables or even switch casinos.
Right. Yeah. Why put up with that?
He was talking about that guy who cashed in for $200 and thought that they were giving him the wrong number of chips. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, Mike, but okay, we have $20 bills here in the United States, right?
Right.
At the casino, we have $25 chips. I can't tell you how many times I've given somebody some money. I'll give them like a 20 and a 5, and I'll say, "Oh, here's $30. We'll be a card night. And I'm going to buy in for another 30." And I'm just so used to those $25 chips that I think of $20 bills as $25 bills. Yeah.
Right. Well, he obviously, since he thought he should get 10 chips, thought the chips were worth $20.
Yeah, that's what made me think of it. Yeah.
I mean, how do you explain that to him? Well, sir, right here in the middle where it says 25, that's $25. And then he would argue it, once they said, well, it's 25.
Yeah, you'd think of it, like, they're 20. Oh, they're 25. Oh, okay, I understand.
And it is a $25 limit table. So what are you going to do with a $20 chip?
All right, we're actually going to hear from Nick again later in the show. But first, let's hear from our good friend Melanie.
Hello, Mark. Hello, Dr. Mike. It's Melanie from Colorado. Just wanted to say how much I've enjoyed listening to your podcast. It's accompanied me as I've been traveling a lot the last few months. I rafted the Grand Canyon for 16 days. I went to Burning Man, where they do have casinos. Didn't make it to one, but I'm not sure what you would gamble since there's no money exchange there. And then I just got back from a Scandinavian adventure. I went hiking in Norway, Helsinki, went to Stockholm, and then got to see my Chiefs beat the Dolphins in Frankfurt, Germany. So the casino I went to, Stockholm, it's called Casino Cosmopol. It is right across from the train station. Played poker there. It was basically 1-1 Texas Hold'em. Dealer was very nice. Fellow players, a lot of fun and very nice. It was kind of James Bond, with all these different accents and nationalities, but the dealer spoke English to run the game. So if somebody would raise $5, he would say raise $5. Or if they said it in Swedish, he would repeat it back in English. So I thought that was interesting. Blackjack was interesting. It was a $10 game with decent rules, 3-2 at least. There, they would deal out the cards to the players, deal one card to themselves face up, and then go around and if anybody wanted to hit, give them another card or whatever. When everyone was done, then they took their second card. They had roulette. That looked super popular. That table was crowded all night. No craps. They had sick bow, but it wasn't going. In order to get in, you have to pay 60 Swedish kroner, which is about $6, and show a passport. That gives you a membership for a whole year. They give you a card, just like a player's card. However, it's essential you have this card. You go through a metal detector and then show them the card. You have to put the card in and put your pin in, and they choose the pin for you, making it even more challenging, to play video poker, any table game, slot. You have to buy your chips before you go play any of the table games, so you have to go to the cage and do that. You can actually buy chips with a credit card, which is great, but you cannot go to the table, put money down, put cash down, and get chips in return. Another interesting feature they had, I believe it was on the video poker and on the slot machines. They had something where you can hit a button and it will block you from playing, like if you want to self-exclude, but just for the rest of the day. I thought that was interesting since I feel like in the States, it's usually all or nothing. But yeah, I thought that was very, very practical, very Scandinavian. Anyway, I did find my favorite slot machine, which is Game of Thrones, or at least a version of it. Hit a $200 jackpot on that, so that was exciting, especially since it's actually says 2,000 Swedish krona, so that was great. They had a Buffalo machine, they had a Thor machine, so they had some things that we have here. It was very beautiful inside, kind of smaller casino, had a nice restaurant, no smoking, or at least they had like smoking booths that were separate from the floor. Beers, nothing was comped. Beers were about $8. Mixed drinks about 15. And honestly, that's kind of the going rate for Scandinavian countries are just kind of expensive. So it wasn't overly inflated. It's not a tipping culture. So it was really weird to play blackjack and poker and not tip the dealer. It's just flat out not done. Anyway, highly recommend that if you're in Stockholm and looking to escape some rainy weather. Also a lot of other cool attractions there. Really neat city, especially the old part. Anyway, I think that's my wrap there. Thanks for the show, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Melanie. Globe-trotting Melanie.
Yeah, Melanie gets around, I'll tell you. She's had some great experiences, and I really appreciate her calling in with these.
Yeah.
So.
Now, Melanie was talking about how they dealt blackjack there, and this is very common in Europe, European-style blackjack, you could call it. That's where the dealer does not get a down card until players are done with their action. And you would think, okay, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is if you have doubled down or split, increased your bet in some way, and the dealer does end up getting blackjack, you lose all those bets. Right. Whereas in America, they check for blackjack right away, and you don't even have that option to split or double down. So as a result, basic strategy is a little bit different for that game too, especially if the dealer is showing an ace. So it is not as good for the player, the European-style blackjack.
Yeah, it's not as good for the player. And also, I think casino loves it too, because there's really no way for somebody to, they've seen the one card the dealer has.
Right, yes, they can't tell. And if, the dealer can't telegraph to anyone what the down card is, anything like that.
No,
so
it pretty much eliminates cheating. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, Melanie was talking about how it was not a tipping culture in Scandinavia. But of course, here in the United States, it is a tipping culture. Let's hear from Mark.
Hey, Mike and Mark. This is Mark in Florida. Listened to you guys for quite a long time and always enjoy your show. You guys do a great job. I just got back from a 4-day trip from Vegas with my brother-in-law, and we were playing some Mississippi stud at the Cromwell. And we were doing pretty well, really. But one of the dealers brought up the point that about 4 or 5 days ago, somebody playing Pai Gow had won the super progressive jackpot, which was $1 million plus. I guess it had to be a 7-card straight plus or something like that. And she wanted to point out that they were so very disappointed and even insulted by the tip that the player had left. I guess he left $1,000 tip for the dealers. The other players at the table, I think, got probably a $5,000 envy bonus if they'd played the progressive as well. But she said that he gave something to the other players as well. And we said, well, yeah, that seems like very little. How much should he have tipped? And she said 10%, that would be $100,000 tip to the dealers. And I could see her point in one way, the dealers in this place, 100 or so maybe, and this is like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them because, the progressive isn't going to hit very often. That's a very rare thing. It's like a lottery ticket. But she does 10% would be crazy. And she says, yeah, we've got families to raise and we have to pay our bills and things. And she wanted to bring this up to other players that showed up to the table too. So it was, just a little bit obnoxious talking about how somebody had under-tipped. And I was thinking, what would I do? What would seem right at $1 million? I was thinking, maybe 20, 25, 30,000, something like that. And just wanted to hear your take on that. And I think maybe she was probably coaching the players, be generous with your tips is what her underlying message was. But other dealers kind of said, yeah, we were really disappointed. We only got $1,000, to have to share. So Was interested in what your take would be on this. What would be right and what would be fair. Hey, thanks, guys.
Yeah, everybody's got opinions about tipping and how much. And when it comes to these huge payouts, then you got to start really thinking about it. Yeah, $100,000, because I could see tipping 10% on some payouts. Oh, great, I won $50, here's $5.
Yeah,
but when you're
right.
talking about these huge amounts, it really makes a difference. Yeah, I think 100,000 is too much. If I were going to tip, I would probably have thought 10,000, and maybe I'm under tipping in that situation, according to other people. But what do you think, Dr. Mike?
Yeah, it really does vary. There's so many factors. First of all, is that person the kind of person who's typically generous, or is there kind of person who's pretty tight with their money?
Mm-hmm.
They won $1 million. Had they lost $2 million earlier this year gambling?
Yes,
I mean,
right.
there's just so many factors to take into consideration. But I was going through in my head, and I was thinking somewhere between 25 and 50,000.
Okay.
So 50,000 would be what, 5%? And 25 would be 2.5%.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind too, even if it's $1 million payout, you're not getting $1 million, right?
Oh,
Take 30% out at least, right, for taxes.
More like 40. Mark.
Okay, right. So, I mean, that's another thing. So the dealer is asking for 10%. Well, here's a completely different thing, and Mark kind of touched on this too. The dealer shouldn't be talking to players about this.
No, especially something that happened, a week ago or 2 weeks ago or something. Why are you talking about that? That's another dealer who's just frustrating themselves over things that can't be changed, right? You can't go back. Hey, by the way, you didn't tip enough. All these people here are pissed off at you. Hey, just deal with it. Just, they didn't tip.
The dealer's just talking to everybody about it. Of course, I know you wouldn't do something like that to us dealers.
Yes, right. That actually is something that if someone complained, if I was a casino boss, I would be pretty upset with the dealer.
Yeah, they could get a reprimand for that. I would think
there's no
they
hawking
would,
for tips.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just rude and kind of just drives people away.
Yeah. And
the last thing the casino wants is for people not to come back to their casino, right? They want you to come. So, 25,000 was probably more than enough. And I could see 10,000 too.
Yeah.
I mean, $10,000 is nothing to sneeze at, right?
That's exactly right. That's a huge tip. That's a tip. Yeah, you want a crazy amount of money, but it's tipping. It's always going to be a hot topic. I think people should not judge other people on their feeling about tipping. But
it's just funny how it happens, how it comes up. So if I win the Mega Millions, let's say, and it got up to 300 million.
Okay.
Am I going to go back to the store? Oh, you sold me that ticket. Here's 30 million.
Yeah. Well, okay. That might not be a good example because I think the stores get some kind of cut too on those.
They do get a cut, but
so
that's the store owner.
Yeah.
That's not the person who sold you the ticket, right?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I would hope that if you won $300 million, that you'd tip me at least $3 million.
Yeah.
So not 10%, but 1%.
I'd probably give you 3 million. My wife and I have often talked about this when it gets up real high and, we think, well, what would that person do if they won? And I always say, hey, you know what I do? I'd give it away as fast as possible. I would take the cash value. I would put a certain amount for myself in the bank, whatever I deem is necessary for the rest of my life or something. And then I would give the rest away, starting with, relatives and friends.
Yeah, that's good. It sounds like you've given a lot of thought to something that's never going to happen.
Yes, I have given a lot of thought to something that's never going to happen. I don't know. I just want to be prepared, Mark.
Okay, good.
I like to be prepared. So I've thought about every possible scenario that can happen to me in my life, and I have an outcome for it.
I believe you. I've just never seen that at a craps table. Seems like it's always a surprise. Mark, I'm down half my money. Yeah.
No, I know. I just like to say it. I just like to announce it.
Yeah. All right, let's find out what's happening with Taylor and Tara.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Taylor from New Mexico with Tara. We are visiting Henderson. We were having a really, really rough time gambling, and then we came back, and the lesson that Tara drew from it was, don't be miserable while you're losing, because it'll swing back. The lesson I drew from was, always chase your losses. Hey, also, I heard that you guys haven't been to Vegas in over a year. That's kind of weird. Think about December 14th weekend, the Fontainebleau opening. Adam's going to be there. Me and Tara are going to be there. Think about it. All right. Always great to hear your podcast episodes when they drop. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.
All right. Yeah. Fontainebleau opening here.
First of all, it's Dr. Taylor and Dr. Tara.
Oh, that's correct. Yes.
And second of all, they both have good takes on it. Don't be upset and always chase.
Yeah, either one. It's good. Don't be upset and always chase.
Either one works out good. And as far as Fontainebleau opening, Adam's going to be there.
I know. I was thinking, hey, that'd be fun. But then when he said Adam was going to be there,
I just don't think I could make that.
We did kind of mention on the last episode, I'm leaving it up to you, Dr. Mike. You were talking about maybe Vegas around your birthday. I was throwing out March Madness. We had another listener who wrote in, said, hey, when are you guys going to be in Vegas again? And I said, we don't know for sure. It's up to you, Dr. Mike.
I'd like to do that after. There's just no way I can do it December.
Oh, no, that's too close. Yeah, I couldn't either.
Well, I got too much going on.
Yeah.
But maybe in February or March Madness.
Again, it's up to you.
We've never done that.
I know.
Of course, that's going to be one of those things.
It is, and that's
go to,
that's
and then we're going to say, that's it. We're never going
I got
back
no problem with that, but at least we can say we've done it. We have to do it.
Well, here's another thing. What about if we didn't go for March Madness, but we went before March Madness to the Mountain West playoffs?
I know what you're saying.
Saw the Aztecs play.
No, because you know what's going to happen? We would go to the game, and then at about halftime, you'd say, "Let's head back. Let's head back to the casino." That's what we've done that before, where we've gone to some sporting event. And it's like, what are we doing here? Let's get back to the tables.
We can watch this on TV. Yeah, it's a no-win situation for us, Mark.
It really is.
It really is a no-win situation.
Let's just get it over with. Okay.
Yeah, we have to do it just so we can say we did it.
Yeah.
All right, that's another thing I got to plan out now.
All right, last call. Let's hear from Nick again.
Hey guys, this is Nick again. I wanted to tell one more story from the trip. The last night of our trip, we were staying over at the Delano, which is one of our favorite places. But I was shocked at Mandalay Bay on a Friday night, $15 table. They only had one craps table open. It was $15 and there was no one at it. So I was like, cool, let's do it. It's our last night. I walk up, I throw down $300. I'm ready to play a little bit. Guy besides me has his backpack on and he's basically just playing the don't pass. That's all he's doing. And it was just like, hey man, if you want to roll, that's fine. Like, I'm happy to hit some numbers. And then if I don't hit the number, we can all win. And we were kind of chatting it up. And then 2 or 3 other people joined the table. They raised it to 25, but they let us stay at 15. The people at the other end shot. Things didn't go so well. I had to buy in for another 300. And then the guy playing the don'ts passed the dice to me. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to play on your side. I was like, okay, cool. So I start throwing. And then at some point, I had hit a bunch of numbers. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to put me and the dealers on the tall just because I never do it. So I put $5 on me, $1 on the crew. Hit the tall. And I was like, that's amazing. Cool. We're making a lot of money. Let's keep doing it. So I put us back up on the tall and I hit the tall again. I think I hit them all at one point, but I wasn't playing them. Dude beside me was loving it. We were having a blast. He was so happy. He finally jumped on the right side. And at the end of it, he was like, hey man, I just upgraded my flight to first class. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. I walk out of there with 2,000 or whatever it was after digging into my pocket. So 2 really good rolls on a trip, which never really happens. So super fun. I never get to play craps at Mandalay Bay because it's always expensive. The dealers were super nice. They were so happy that people were betting for them and with them. We all were just kind of at the table having one of those moments where everybody's in sync and we're all just having a good time. So totally a lot of fun. There was some other guy on the other end of the table that was betting huge. I mean, he bought in for 10K and he cashed out super large. I mean, there was just chips everywhere. I was like, good for that dude. He didn't throw me any money, which I didn't expect it, but he was very happy. He walked away. He jumped in right on the hot roll. So those type of guys always make me nervous. It's not my money, but seeing that amount of money being thrown out there makes me nervous that if I lose it, someone's going to come and yell at me. But anyway, appreciate it, guys. Have a good day. Bye.
All right. Yeah. Congratulations. It is true that you're hoping for at least one good roll on a trip. Sometimes that never happens. But yeah, to give 2 good ones on a single trip, that's great.
Yeah, that makes the whole trip happy.
Yep.
You don't remember the bad rolls when you've had 2 good rolls.
When you've had 2 good rolls, you don't remember the bad ones. Okay.
Yeah.
I know I just basically repeated what you said, but I understand. I agree. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We want to thank some people for some recurring donations. Brian Dancer, Robin from Anytime Gambling, Brian and Sarah, Josh, and the boys over at the Crap Vegas podcast. Thank you very much for those recurring donations. We also got a donation from Eamon for Royal Leftovers. He said he hit a Royal Flush. He actually wrote to us and wanted to know if his counted. I think he was like on a multi-liner. Our stance now is if you risked money and you hit a Royal Flush, that counts. Right, Dr. Mike?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
And we also got a donation from Todd. Forgot to send a karma donation when I was at F1 and paid dearly for it. Oh, dear. Oh, well, battle on another day. Great show. Keep it going. Well, thank you very much, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
Hey, at the top of our webpage, you'll find a link to our store where you can buy You Can Bet on That t-shirts. Also, you can find a list of all the gambling-related shows coming up on American television at youcanbetonthat.com/TV-listings. And we've got a list of gambling-related movies at youcanbetonthat.com/movies. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512-WAGERS.
Or you can email us at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter at youcanbetonThat and on Facebook at facebook.com/youcanbetonThat. What do you got for us, Dr. Mike?
Well, Mark, football season for college anyway is winding down.
Yeah, winding down.
And I think I've had a pretty good year at college.
Yes,
betting.
you did. Yesterday wasn't terribly good for you, but overall, I'll have to go through the stats. I think you did well.
I think yesterday I broke even, kind of.
Maybe you might have lost a little bit. Maybe you just lost the juice. That was about it.
Yeah, I think that was it, the juice, yeah. But overall, it's been pretty good. NFL, not as good, but okay.
Yeah.
So a good football season of betting. And I am very excited for college basketball now.
Oh, yeah, here it comes. The stretch, getting down the stretch.
Yep. I love college basketball, and I love when we get into like January and February, and you're looking at the standings and saying, oh, gosh, I hope this team can move up or whatever. I'm going to make a prediction right now that I think that it's going to be Purdue.
Okay. And since you love college basketball so much, I guess you're going to make plans to go to Vegas for the March Madness, right?
I am definitely considering that, Mark.
All right.
I've got to weigh all the factors in.
Pros and cons. Make a list. Get out a legal pad.
Depends on what the weather's like here in Minnesota in March.
Okay, so what does that mean? If the weather's good, you'll stay. If the weather's bad, you'll leave?
I think the weather's bad in March, always.
Oh, okay. So what you just said is not going to factor into it at all. Then.
Probably not. Yeah. Anyway, we got a lot of sports going on. I love that. And it is the holiday season, which I love that too. Yeah, good time of year. Good time of year to get out to your casino.
When's the last time you went to the casino?
Oh, it's been a few weeks. I've just been so busy with other things, and I hurt my knee a little bit. So I've been wearing my brace again, and now I've hurt my shoulder. Stepped in a hole.
Stepped in a hole?
Oh. Yeah. I was walking through our yard, and you know how like a gopher hole, the normal size of a gopher hole might be like the size of a teacup.
Mm-hmm.
My whole foot went in. It was the whole length of my foot.
God.
It was some huge hole, and it has to be, I don't know what. It could be a badger. We do have badgers around here.
Yeah.
Whatever it was huge. I'm just walking through the backyard, and then all of a sudden my right foot just goes completely in the hole, and I'm falling backwards, and it was a mess. So I haven't really gone to the casino, but probably in December I'm going to have to make a few trips out to Diamond Joe, weather permitting.
All right. Well, to Dr. Mike, watch your step. To everyone else, thank you for listening.
Good night.
I'm so excited. Did you see the ring? Oh my God. I can't wait to tell my parents I'm marrying a doctor.
He's a dentist.
But it doesn't matter. The invitation will still read Dr. and Mrs. What's his last name?